Hello and welcome to the September 7th, 2025 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're putting money into this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like goodnewsnetwork.org and goodgoodgood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Hello, everybody. Hello, Becky. Hello, Nico. Tonight is going to be yet another cool news episode. That's right, we have accumulated several articles of cool news. It maybe didn't meet the grade of what we consider good news, but it doesn't mean it wasn't cool news. So we have a lot of cool news to go over tonight. A lot of which you, the Nick's Newsies, have brought to us. So we are looking forward to being able to present these articles finally. They may not have been, so we have an idea of what good news is and what we present as good news, but we appreciate everything that y'all send in, so we harvest these articles, we collect them, and we hold on to them until we can eventually do some cool news articles or some cool news episodes like this one. All of these will be abridged versions because instead of our usual 6 or 7 articles, we are going to have 12 tonight. So producer Donna, due to the sheer volume, has made abridged versions of each article, which I will be reading from. However, I will post the links for the full articles in the chat, and they will be available in the description of the video. Hello, Blue Falcon. Very cool. All right, so let's get into our news brew. The season may be changing, and with it my palate, but we still have some holdouts in the beer fridge to get through. Producer Donna decided to drop an alpha bomb on us from Big Rig Brewery. That's right, alpha bomb. This is a 6.6% ABV Hazy IPA. I'm a big fan of Hazy IPAs. Let the camera adjust the color again. There we go. Took it a moment. Yeah, so it's probably going to carry a couple megatons of hops right into my face. Because it is an IPA, we are just going to use the Wicked Pissa pub glass. Wicked Pissa. You gotta hit it with that Boston twang. And we don't need the Balisong bottle opener because it's a can. We are gonna have some bottles though. Check out our Instagram posts on Thursdays. When we show off what news brews are coming up, there will be some bottles in future episodes. I'm probably blew the gain on the audio on that one. Oh, it smells amazing. Get into theatrics of a 5-minute pour. The head is crazy on it. I want to get all the gas out of this beer. I don't need the gas in me. It's just all head. Like, it is a can of head. That is nuts. We're going to let that settle. Wow. That's awful. We'll give it a moment. In the meantime, we can get into our shout-outs. Fox and Hen Winery is the place to be for fine wine or cider. Monday morning, September 8th, they are going to be hosting a Frontenac grape harvesting party. They're hoping to round up at least 10 helpers. I know they've got a lot of folks dedicated, but it doesn't hurt to have a couple more. It's going to be a fun experience, so if you can make it, please head to their Facebook page and mark yourself as interested on the event post. We have included the link down below in the description if you want to go to it from there. And Fox and Hen is located between downtown Grand Haven and Allendale. It should be a good one. Their last grape harvesting party was fantastic. I heard a lot of good stuff from it, so hopefully this one will be everything the last one was too. Haven LARP will be hosting their 3rd event of the year, starting Friday, September 12th, and running until Sunday, September 14th. If you've ever considered trying out a LARP, Haven would be a great first experience. The staff is dedicated, imaginative, and out to create a solid experience, and the player base is welcoming and they make for some truly memorable moments. Check out Haven LARP this coming weekend at Camp Lor-Ray in Twin Lake, Michigan, and link is in the description. And hello, Dirty Rogue. the beer has settled a little bit, but oh my gosh, never mind. Ah! Stay. Stop it. Lastly, shout out to Tesla Tree Service. Just a few hours ago, they rescued a 1-year-old indoor cat named Xylo. Scared and wet from the rain, the brown tabby is now safe at home thanks to Steve and the crew. Thank you very much, Tesla Tree Service. News quote: being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. This comes from Lao Ji, I believe it's pronounced, romanized as Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher and author of the Tao Te Ching by Lao Zi, one of the foundational texts of Taoism alongside the Zhuangzi. So again, that quote is a really beautiful quote. I really love it. Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. Lao Zi, also known as Lao Tzu, thank you very much for that. Bug news, the bombed out wasteland that is Elmira's home hasn't changed much. She's doing very well. She's actually out and about right now. I can see her waggling her butt as she's probably hunting for a cricket. She is basically just an armored patrol vehicle walking around in there. It is horrifying to watch. I'm starting to see a trend in her habits, and honestly, I do wonder if her activity is what is giving Sue the fits. Ripley sits between them and is doing just fine. She likes to scuttle around as the arbiter. No worries whatsoever with her. She's content and pretty much just chills in her house with her dairy cows, the isopods. Sue doesn't want to interact like he used to, and that's why I'm kind of wondering if it's because of Elmira. They are not friendly species to one another, so it could be possible that he is smelling her from even that distance and wants nothing to do with her being active. So Sue also has a small wolf spider in his vivarium. It's like the equivalent size of a dog by comparison to Sue himself. We need to name that little wolf spider. It's been in there for months, and I've been tracking it as it has moved around the vivarium. So we may need some suggestions for the little wolf spider. We may put a poll up to see what folks want to name it, or just comment on this video, and we'll go through the comments and see if we find, some name ideas. Producer Donna asked me, did I rescue the cute mantis from the other night? If you were checking out my personal Facebook page, and maybe I posted it a couple times on the Nick's News page, there was a mantis religiosa, an European mantis, at my work that I've found a couple times now. It was really cold, and it was down in the grass, and I helped it up onto the concrete, and it warmed up and got moving later on that day. I did not rescue it. Oh, no, sorry, that was Becky. I apologize. Sorry, Becky. I looked over and I thought it was producer Donna, but no, it was Becky that asked that question. If we get later in the season and I still keep finding that mantis, yes, I probably will rescue it from the super cold months. Next week is supposed to, or this week, in my opinion, this week, not next week, is going to be very warm again. We're in the tail end of summer here in Michigan, so it should be okay for that mantis. All right. I'm going to see if I can top this beer off so I can actually drink it. God, it is super carbonated. My gosh, it doesn't stop. It just wants to foam up. It smells great, but it looks like ass. Come on. All right, let's get into our broadcast. We are doing cool news. So our broadcast is going to be broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are going to be cool science and technology, cool health and medicine, cool flora and fauna, and cool wholesome notes. We are going to have 3 articles in each category tonight, so a total of 12 articles to go through. And again, these will be the abridged versions, but we'll still post the links to all of them in the chat. Hey Julie, I'm here, but I'm semi-distracted by the Bills-Ravens NFL game. It's 17-7 Ravens. All right, yeah, I knew we were going to start having to fight the NFL. I knew the game, the season was going to start, but we will keep soldiering on in our normal time slot. And we appreciate everybody who may be watching, a football game, but also tunes in to support Nick's News. All right, so we're going to start off in category 1, cool science and technology. And we called this first one, "What's that, Lassie? The astronauts are trapped in the well on Mars?" I will copy and paste this article to the chat, and I will read the abridged version. Where is it? Nope. There we go. So this article was published to Popular Science on August 22nd of 2025 by Mac DeGuerin. And it's titled, "Lassie's Robot Dog May Join Astronauts on Mars." When humans eventually set foot on Mars, they may have a four-legged companion. A team of scientists from Oregon State University, the University of Southern California, the University of Pennsylvania, and Texas A&M University tested a prototype of the future Mars robot dog earlier this month at White Sands National Park in New Mexico. Over the course of 5 days, the robot was tasked with traversing the region's loose, unpredictable soil, which is meant to mimic the surface of the red planet. The trial comes about 2 years after similar experiments with the same robot on Mount Hood in Oregon, where the terrain also resembles that of the moon. Howard, a German shepherd belonging to Wilson, reportedly showed off his athletic prowess during the Mount Hood experiments, gracefully running and hopping across snow and icy rocks. By studying the way he intuitively navigates those obstacles, researchers can apply those insights to improve the robot dog's performance. This is really cool. Researchers are hopeful that the lessons learned from these 2 desert excursions will give the robot dog the leg up it needs to join astronauts on future missions to the moon and eventually Mars. It would collect samples and alert its human partners when they are approaching unstable or unsafe areas. Fittingly, the robot dog experiments are being called the Lassie, Legged Autonomous Surface Science in Analog Environments Project. A video shared with Popular Science of the Dogbot shows the petite black and white robot dog named Spirit tit-tapping its feet across the vast sandy landscape. Spirit's head is composed of several cameras placed side by side. The robot dog's 4 stick-like legs allow it to adapt to different types of terrain and maintain its balance. These legs use what researchers call proprioceptive sensing. That's awesome. Which means the robot can detect slight changes in texture or recognize when one of its feet makes contact with the Martian surface. By using computer vision and machine learning to chart its own paths, the quadruped can autonomously collect samples. The end goal is developing a robot dog worthy of the name Lassie. That is friggin' awesome. Some really cool news to everybody involved in the Lassie project, building a robot dog to accompany astronauts on the moon and Mars. Cheers. Oh my gosh. Say what you will about IPAs. They're not for everybody. Some folks don't like the hoppiness. Some folks don't like the body, the carbonation, just the style. But sometimes you get a banger that's got a lot of big flavor and kind of goes to show what IPAs can be, and this is it. Producer Donna, thank you very much for this one. All right, this next article is wild. I called it, "Are Cyborg Jellyfish..." Oh no, sorry, that's the real title. What I called it was "Cyborg Jellyfish." Jesus Christ. The actual title of this article, I have too many things open. "Are cyborg jellyfish the next step of deep ocean exploration?" I'll copy and paste this link into the chat for y'all to read at your leisure while I go through the abridged. This article was published to ZME Science on August 22nd of 2025 by Mihai Andre and Zoe Gordon. Just about 20% of the total ocean has been explored, with large portions entirely unmapped. Untapped is the app I use to log all my beer. What if the key to exploring them isn't a billion-dollar submarine, but a drifting jellyfish fitted with a microchip? Nicole Zhu, a mechanical engineer at the University of Colorado Boulder, has spent years analyzing the translucent moon jellyfish. These gelatinous, brainless creatures are older than dinosaurs. Contrary to popular belief, jellyfish don't drift aimlessly. They're weak swimmers, but they are capable of detecting and swimming against currents. In fact, moon jellies are among the most efficient swimmers on Earth. For every calorie they burn, they can travel farther through the water than nearly any other animal. Zhu spent years trying to recreate their movements, then realized that instead of building expensive machines that mimic jellyfish, she could simply work with the originals. Zhu attached tiny pacemaker-like devices to stimulate the jellyfish's muscles. She can then control these devices, nudging them left, right, up, or down. With added sensors, these cyborg jellyfish could slip into places even the most advanced robots struggle to reach, like the crushing darkness of the deep sea. In lab tests and early field trials, Zhu and her team successfully steered jellyfish through shallow waters off Massachusetts. Now, in a new study in Physical Review Fluids, they've presented another breakthrough, using biodegradable starch particles instead of toxic synthetic tracers to visualize how jellyfish propel themselves through the water. That means scientists can study the animals without leaving harmful residues in the ocean. The idea is to attach tiny sensor packages to the jellyfish's bell, which is the large portion that makes up most of a jellyfish. These would be lightweight, waterproof devices that could measure things like pH, salinity, temperature, and more. The jellyfish would essentially act like roaming weather stations underwater. Normally, jellyfish don't bother too much with swimming and will flow with the currents, but if you can steer jellies towards areas of interest, that makes the data they acquire all the more important. This is important both because we don't know much about the ocean and because climate change is kicking in. The ocean is changing fast. As it warms and turns more acidic, ecosystems are shifting in ways scientists can barely track. Traditional research tools like robotic submarines or deep-sea sensors are expensive and limited. A swarm of living, low-cost jellyfish scouts could collect crucial data on temperature, pH, and oxygen levels in places humans almost never reach. This could show us how climate change is reshaping the sea in real time, track pollution and spreading through currents, or even guide the design of green technologies inspired by nature's most efficient swimmers. But splicing electronics with living animals raises some thorny questions. Do jellyfish feel pain? They lack brains and nociceptors, the receptors that warn animals of harm, or warn mammals of harm, yet they can still respond to stress. Zhu's lab watches for signs like excess mucus production or a halt in reproduction. So far, her jellies seem healthy with tiny polyps budding in the tanks, and she must insist ethics must guide the research. It's really cool. It's our responsibility as researchers to think about the ethical considerations up front, Zhu said, but as far as we can tell, the jellyfish are doing well. They're thriving. For now, Zhu's jellies pulse gently in their tanks, unaware they may soon become pioneers of an entirely new era of exploration. The oldest drifters in the sea may turn out to be humanity's newest eyes in the deep. That is really cool. To Nicole Zhu, a mechanical engineer, and everything that they are doing regarding cyborg jellyfish that could explore the deep. Cheers. All right, third and final article in Cool Science and Technology. We call this one, I'm a-running over here now, beep boop. But I'll copy and paste the actual article in the chat for y'all to read at your leisure. It's also in the description. I will read the abridged version. World's smallest self-propelled bipedal robot sets new speed record. This was published to SciTech Daily on June 21st of 2025 by Caitlin Landrum, Carnegie Mellon University. At under 1.5 inches tall, about the size of a Lego minifigure, the world's smallest self-contained bipedal robot can start moving from a standstill, walk at speeds over half a mile per hour, turn, skip, and climb small steps using only its internal battery, an actuator, and a control system. Nicknamed Zippy by its creators, the robot is the latest achievement of a multi-year project supported by the National Science Foundation and led by Aaron Johnson and Sarah Bergbreder. Bergbreder? Could be Bergbreder. At Carnegie Mellon University. The project focuses on understanding how walking works at miniature scales to develop more capable, tiny robots. Stephen Mann, one of the lead authors of the research being presented at this year's IEEE International Conference on Robotics and Automation, highlighted the complexity and significance of miniature-legged robots. They can go into tight spaces that people and even other robots cannot manage. Zippy could be a resource for emergency search and rescue, industrial inspection, and even deployment to geologically interesting areas for scientific research, he said. Julie, Wally. Undergraduate students Soma Narita and Yosef Masera were also lead authors on this work and helped to design Zippy based on the team's prior steerable bipedal robot, Mugatu, that featured rounded feet and a single actuator at the hip. The biped walks by lifting its front leg and shifting its center of gravity forward. The momentum from this shift, in combination with its rounded front foot, creates enough space for Zippy's other leg to swing through and take a full step. Because of its small size, Zippy uses an additional mechanical hard stop to act as a joint limit for its hip instead of a servo. So basically they've got this thing as cut down as possible to be this just the tiniest little get up and go bot, and it looks adorable. Both Zippy's small size and our mechanical adjustments enable Zippy to walk at an incredible 10 leg lengths per second, which would be equivalent to an average adult moving at 19 miles an hour. I will jog at 6. This little bastard could run at the equivalent of 19 miles an hour if it was the size of us. That's wild. This makes Zippy not just the smallest, but the fastest power autonomous bipedal robot of any size by that metric, said Sarah Bergbreder, a professional of mechanical engineering. Moving forward, the team plans to add sensors like cameras to Zippy, so that it can localize and autonomously navigate environments. With localization capabilities, multiple robots could be deployed together to coordinate us as a swarm for inspection or search and rescue operations in hazardous environments. That is really cool. For everybody involved in the creation of Zippy, the smallest, fastest bipedal robot we've built to date. Cheers. This beer is finally starting to settle a little bit. Okay, that's going to get us out of cool science and technology. We are going to move on to category 2, cool health and medicine. And this is awesome. All 3 of our articles here in Cool Health and Medicine were sent in by you, the Newsies, over, some time this year since we had our last Cool News episode. So thank you all very much for these. We call this first one Rare as Rare Can Be. And this one was sent in by Eliza. So Eliza, thank you very much. I will copy and paste the link to it in the chat for y'all to read at your leisure. I will get into the abridged version. There it is. Scientists have discovered a new blood type. Only one person on Earth has it. This was published to Popular Mechanics on June 25th of 2025 by Darren Orff. Excuse me. Most people are familiar with the four broad human blood types, and it is likely that they know that they come in positive or negative varieties as well. However, that's really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the complexity of human blood types. In fact, humans theoretically contain millions of different blood types, as there are more than 600 antigens that have been identified on human blood cells. Any combination of those antigens could be considered a new blood type. So we know A, B, O, like those are the big four. But there really are several other major categories. If you've heard of golden blood, that is a very rare blood type. And this one is even rarer. Until recently, the International Society of Blood Transfusion only recognized 47 distinct blood type groups. A 48th member has officially joined the party. Some 15 years ago, researchers received blood from a French woman originating from the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, colloquially referred to as Guada. An unusual antibody associated with this blood was discovered in 2011, but it wasn't until 2019 that DNA sequencing found that a genetic mutation was responsible for the unique blood type, which was officially recognized by the ISBT this year. The researchers named the group Guada negative, after the patient's homeland, and confirmed that the woman inherited the blood type from her parents, who each contained the mutated gene. This is the only known case in the world. She is the only person in the world who is compatible with herself. Becky says, I have A minus, or A negative. LOL, I didn't quite make the grade. It is important to know the antigen makeup of your blood before undergoing blood transfusions, as mismatch can trigger a life-threatening immune response. That's right, when you get blood that is not the same as your blood, your immune system goes crazy. Although there are potentially millions of blood types, transfusions made with blood that matches your type according to the well-established ABO-RH type subsystems have a 99.8% chance of success. However, it's still important to identify these ultra-rare blood types so that life-threatening immune responses can be avoided. Discovering new blood groups means offering patients with rare blood a better level of care, the EFS team said in a press statement. To everybody involved with the categorization of a new blood type, the 48th blood type that is only in one person on the planet that we know of right now, and to Eliza for sending in that article, cheers. We called this next one. I'm going to try to get through it without laughing. Somewhat harder, could be better, maybe faster, definitely stronger. And this one was sent in by Mona. So Mona, thank you very much for sending in this article. I will copy and paste it into the chat if y'all want to read along. Yes, I absolutely love Daft Punk. There it is. An injectable hydrogel for local bone densification. This was published to EPFL on January 28th of 2025 by Celia Luderbacher. Osteoporosis is a disease in which bone resorbs faster than it is formed, gradually weakening its structure over time and leading to fractures. Although the condition is well recognized, Dominique Pioletti, head of the Laboratory of Biomechanical Orthopedics in EPFL's School of Engineering, emphasizes that the economic and societal impacts of osteoporosis fractures are often underestimated. In the absence of effective preventative measures, around 40% of women aged 50 and over will suffer at least one major osteoporotic fracture. In men, the percentage is around 20%, he says. Moreover, people often do not realize the severity of the condition. In the elderly, fractures of the femoral neck near the hip have a 20% mortality rate in the year following the fracture, and over half of those affected are never able to return to pre-fracture activities. The diagnosis of osteoporosis is usually followed by treatment with systemic drugs that work either by decreasing the resorption rate of old bone or boosting new bone production. But both types of treatment can take up to a year to have an effect, leaving patients vulnerable to fracture in the meantime. Pioletti and colleagues at EPFL startup Flowbone have developed an injectable hydrogel that is made of hyaluronic acid and hydroxyapatite nanoparticles. That sounds awesome. And it's designed to mimic the natural minerals in bone, which produce rapid, localized increases in bone density. The team, in collaboration with Vincent Stadelman and the Schultes Clinic in Zurich, have recently reported a novel therapy that combines the hydrogel injections with traditional systemic drugs, so we're tackling it two-phase. The results, published in the journal Bone, show a 4 to 5-fold increase in bone density in the legs of rats with bone loss. Pioletti adds that the Flowbone team is now awaiting regulatory approval to move ahead with a clinical study in human patients. We hope that such a study will allow us to demonstrate the benefit of our hydrogel in cases where patients require rapid bone densification, for example, to support an implant where the bone is weak. Then, we want to build on this evidence, ultimately to develop therapies to prevent fractures due to osteoporosis. That is really cool. An injectable mineral material that basically tells your body, make some bone. That is awesome. To everybody involved in that team at EPFL, and to Mona for sending in that article. Cheers. All right, this next one was sent in by Cassidy, and it is a cancer article, so you know what we call it. Cancer. Fuck cancer. I will copy and paste the link to this in the chat for y'all to read at your leisure while I read the abridged version. South Korean scientists reprogram tumor cells without chemo. This was published to Business Today on June 15th of 2025, and there was no author cited for the article. In a discovery that could rewrite the rules of cancer treatment, scientists in South Korea have reversed the malignant nature of cancer cells without killing them. Instead of targeting tumors with radiation or chemotherapy, researchers reprogram the cells to behave like normal tissue. Leading the work is Professor Kwang Hyun Cho and his team at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, or the KAIST. Publishing their results in Advanced Science, the researchers outlined a method to steer cancer cells away from uncontrolled growth and back toward a differentiated, stable identity. So that's right, cancer is usually a cell clump that has gone rogue and has begun going off the rails, and somehow we are turning it back into normal functioning cells. At the heart of their method is a computational system called Benign, or the Boolean Network Interface and Control, which models how genes interact inside individual cells. By mapping these interactions, Benign identifies key genetic regulators that control whether a cell behaves malignantly or normal. That's really cool. The study zeroed in on 3 such regulators: MYB, HDAC2, and FOXA2. Using data from 4,252 intestinal cells, the team reconstructed a gene network with 522 components. Simulations predicted that turning off these 3 genes would halt cancer cell proliferation. The prediction held up in lab-grown colorectal cancer cell lines and in animal models. In human... Ooh, you're supposed to be quiet. Why is my phone going off? There we go. In human cell lines HCT116, HT29, and CACO2, the triple knockdown slowed cell growth more effectively than knocking down any single gene. With these treated cells, when these treated cells were implanted into mice, the resulting tumors were significantly smaller in both size and weight than from those from untreated controls. Further analysis showed that treated cells expressed markers typical of healthy intestinal cells, such as KRT20 and VDR, while cancer-associated pathways like MYC and WNT were suppressed. We talked a lot about pathways and the different ways that cancer presents itself on episodes where we have articles like this. So this is really fascinating that we're kind of taking all of this framework and knowledge that we've been building, and we continue to find new ways to fight cancer with it. This is awesome. The gene expression patterns also closely match those of healthy tissue samples in the Cancer Genome Atlas. While challenges remain, such as adapting the method to various tissues and ensuring the long-term stability of reverted cells — that's right, you've got to keep them the way they are after you turn them back — the potential is profound. If refined and clinically applied, this technique could shift cancer treatment from destruction to reprogramming. To everybody involved in this study, reprogramming cancer cells to stop being absolutely horrible cancer cells, and to Cassidy for sending in that article, cheers. Producer Donna, cancer. F cancer. Accurate. We here at Nick's News absolutely hate cancer. So that's going to get us out of cool health and medicine. We are going to move on to category 3, cool flora and fauna, aka cool plants and animals. This first article we call Evolution in Action, and it came from Kendra. Kendra, thank you for sending this in. I will copy and paste this link into the description, or into the chat, and it is in the description as well, while I read the abridged version. Scientists hail third manta ray species, evolution in action. This was published to Oceanographic on July 28th of 2025 by Rob Hutchins. Found exclusively in Atlantic Ocean waters, the Mobula urae now joins the reef manta, Mobula alfredi, and the giant oceanic manta, Mobula birostris, as the third formally recognized manta ray species worldwide. Published in Environmental Biology of Fishes, the new manta species discovery also represents a culmination of a 15-year scientific journey that began with observations made by the Marine Megafauna Foundation co-founder, Dr. Marshall, back in 2009. Dr. Marshall is credited with revolutionizing manta ray science by splitting what was thought to be one manta ray species into two distinct species about 15 years ago. In the same landmark 2009 paper, she predicted that a third manta ray species existed in the Atlantic Ocean. Named Mobula urae after Yara, a water spirit from indigenous Brazilian mythology, the new Atlantic manta ray species inhabits tropical and subtropical waters on the eastern United States to Brazil, including the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. That is so, Becky. So there are tons of stingrays and rays, but there are only 3 manta rays. We know, the one that you see the most of is the giant manta ray. The size of a small, the size of a large car. Cruising through the ocean, and then there's another smaller manta ray, and now there is finally a third. So yeah, it's an animal that doesn't have a lot of species in its makeup. So, but there are a ton of other rays, cow rays, spotted rays, torpedo rays, etc., etc., etc. So. Dr. Marshall has been working with international collaborators to publish a formal description of this new species when she suffered a severe brain aneurysm and stroke in early 2024, following which she remains on long-term medical leave. The formal description was completed by an international research team led by Brazilian researcher Nayara Bucar from the University of Sao Paulo, with Marine Megafauna Foundation's Jessica Pate carrying forward the collaboration and providing Andreas data and observations. Mobula urae shares many characteristics with both existing manta species, which explains why it remained formally unrecognized for so long. Distinguishing features do include distinctive V-shaped white shoulder patches, lighter coloration around the mouth and eyes compared to the darker faces of the giant mantas, and dark spots typically confined to the abdominal region but not extending between the gills as in reef mantas. So it has its own collection of features that make it distinct from the other two. I remember one of the first jobs I had was working in a lab, and I was identifying aquatic insects. And sometimes it came down to counting whether or not an insect had 6 or 7 sets of gills. And you're counting these tiny little gills with a microscope. So that was wild. But that's all it takes sometimes to denote a different species. Well, I'll tell you what, it ain't small. The new species can grow to somewhere between 5 and 6 meters, like giant mantas. It's a classic case where the genetic analysis we needed to confirm what careful morphological observation suggested, said Pate. The differences are consistent once you know what to look for, but they are subtle enough that definitive identification requires expertise. The researchers suggest that with this discovery comes a rare glimpse into evolution in action. As one of the most recently evolved lineages of sharks and rays, manta rays provide a window into ongoing speciation, with genetic evidence suggesting M. yare diverged relatively recently from another manta ray species. Future research priorities include population assessment across the species' range, movement pattern studies using satellite telemetry, habitat use characterization, and threat assessment in key areas. Yeah, that is a big fish. 5 to 6 meters, you're looking at 15 to 18 feet in that range. That is a big fish. To everybody involved with finding a new species of manta ray, and to Kendra for sending in this article, cheers. This next one we called My Two Dads, a Penguin Story. And this one was also sent in by Cassidy. So Cassidy, thank you for sending in this article. I will copy and paste it into the chat if y'all want to read it at your leisure. I will read the abridged version. Same-sex penguin couple raising rare chick at UK Zoo. This was published to CBS News on July 4th of 2025 by Eliza Chasan. Scampy and Flounder, a pair of male Humboldt penguins, are stepping up to raise a chick at Chester Zoo in the United Kingdom. The chick is one of 10 born during what zoo team manager Zoe Sweetman described in a Thursday news release as a bumper year for the penguins here. Humboldt penguins are one of the most at-risk of the world's 17 species of penguins and are listed as vulnerable by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. There are now 63 penguins in the colony at the zoo. Penguin pair Whatsit and Peach laid 2 of the eggs that hatched this year, according to the zoo. Experts at the zoo shared the eggs between the nests of Whatsit and Peach and Scampy and Flounder. The zoo's bird experts carefully shared the eggs between the 2 nests to help give both chicks the best possible start and help improve chances of successful fledging. While a zoo spokesperson said Scampy and Flounder have never hatched and raised a chick before, same-sex penguin couples are not unheard of. Penguin parents share feeding and parenting duties. Chester zookeepers provide fish, which the parents swallow and blend into a protein-rich soup, which they regurgitate to feed the chicks, according to the zoo. Since their births, the fluffy penguin chicks have nearly quadrupled in size, according to the zoo. Humboldt penguins native to South America are vulnerable to climate change and habitat loss, according to the zoo. We've got a lot of according to the zoo. Population numbers have decreased by around 85% in the last 40 years. The penguin colony at Chester Zoo plays a vital role in the international breeding program for the species, helping to maintain a genetically healthy population in conservation zoos across Europe, according to the zoo. Humboldt penguins are carnivores, eating small fish and crustaceans according to the zoo. Donna, there's a lot of according to the zoo in here. They spend up to 75% of their lives in the water. They typically live 12 to 15 years, but can live up to 20 years in human care. Humboldt penguins typically weigh around 7 to 13 pounds, they're cute little guys, with their weight fluctuating based on food and whether or not they're molting. They grow to be about 2 feet tall, and penguin chicks at the zoo are weighed to monitor their development. Well, the zoo knows, says producer Donna in the chat. To everybody involved at the Chester Zoo in the United Kingdom, and to Scampy, what are their names? Scampy and Flounder, for 2 male penguins who adopted a chick and are helping to raise it to adulthood. And to Cassidy for sending in that article. Cheers. That really was funny. According to the zoo. All right, one more here in cool flora and fauna, and we've got probably no easier to care for. This is what I called this nonsense. I'll copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along, and I'll read the abridged version. Scientists have created rechargeable, multicolored, glow-in-the-dark succulent plants. This was posted to CNN Science on September 4th of 2025 by Izzy Rowland and Amarachi Ori. Yeah, they're really neat, but succulents are absolute trash to take care of, so here we go. Glow-in-the-dark plants, bright enough to light up streets at night, may sound like the stuff of science fiction or fantasy, but scientists have already made plants that emit a greenish glow. They are even commercially available in the United States. I maybe want to pick one up. A group of Chinese researchers have just gone even further, creating what they say are the first multicolored and brightest ever luminescent plants. Biologist Shuting Liu, a researcher at South China Agricultural University in Guangzhou and co-author of the study published August 27th in the journal Matter, said in a statement, "Imagine glowing trees replacing streetlights." To make the plants glow, Liu and her fellow researchers injected the leaves of the succulent Echeveria mebina with strontium aluminate, a material often used in glow-in-the-dark toys that absorbs light and gradually releases it over time. This method marks a departure from the traditional gene editing technique. Injecting a plant with nanoparticles instead of editing its genes allowed the researchers to create plants that glow red, blue, and green. The research team attempted to show the practical application of their idea by constructing a green wall made of 56 plants that produced enough light to see text and images up to 4 inches or 10 centimeters from folks who haven't landed people on the moon away, according to the study. Once injected and placed under direct sunlight for a couple of minutes, the plants continued to glow for up to 2 hours. While the brightness of the afterglow gradually weakened during that time period, plants can be recharged repeatedly by exposure to sunlight. The plants maintain the ability to emit afterglow effect 25 days after the treatment, and older leaves injected with the afterglow particles continue to emit light under UV stimulation even after wilting. While strontium aluminate can readily decompose in plants, posing harm to plant tissue, Liu said, the scientists developed a chemical coating for the material that acts as a protective barrier. That's really cool. Producer Donna says, I have 2 that are thriving. Maybe they just don't like you. Succulents really don't like me. That probably is what it comes down to. The researchers said in the paper that their findings are... they see their findings as highlighting the potential of luminescent plants as sustainable and efficient lighting systems, capable of harvesting sunlight during the day and emitting light at night. That is really cool. To everybody involved with making multicolored, glow-in-the-dark succulents, and hopefully making them easier to care for. Cheers. All right, that's going to get us into category 4, the cool, wholesome notes. And we called this first one, Practice What You Preach. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read it at your leisure while I read the abridged version. Church to demolish existing worship space, creating 110 units of affordable housing. This was posted at goodgoodgood.co on September 4th of 2025 by Cameron Baker. St. John's Lutheran Church has sat on a downtown corner of Madison, Wisconsin for nearly 170 years, but its leaders are now working to demolish it. In the place of the old building will be a brand new 10-story redevelopment, home to a new worship space, offices, community spaces, and over 100 mostly low-income apartments with a parking garage underneath. The idea came about from conversations around how the congregation could best give back to the community. And now the $58 million project is about to break ground with the goal to be completed in the next 2 years. We were realizing more and more people are struggling with finding housing, Reverend Peter Beeson recently told Wisconsin Public Radio. And if they were able to find housing, we're paying 50 to 70% of their income for and if they were able to find housing, we're paying 50 to 70% of their income for housing costs, he added. We realized we could use our land and our building for good and flourishing of our community, Beeson added. The church will continue to own the property, but will partner with a management company to oversee the affordable apartments. The plans include a total of 130 housing units, some of which would be rented out at market rates. But the vast majority, 110 units about, would have capped rents in tiered pricing based on the area's median income. We're really targeting people who work in restaurant, retail, and service sector jobs, because our neighborhood has historically been sort of that blue-collar workforce housing, Beeson explained to WPR. Based on architect renderings by Potter Lawson, the new development will have a much more modern, colorful aesthetic than the existing neo-Gothic church. Because access to beauty and joy is one of those rare but pretty essential human needs, they added. Access to beauty and joy is one of those rare but pretty essential human needs. I love that. To everybody involved with the transformation of the property of St. John Lutheran's Church in Madison, Wisconsin, into an amazing housing a housing venture that will also have a place of worship. Cheers. Call this next one From Fiction to Reality. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read it at your leisure. I'll read the abridged version. We do the abridged versions because clearly, we try to keep our broadcast under an hour, and if we were to be reading these full articles, we would be blowing past that and then some. So this obviously helps quite a bit. There it is. After an AI-generated story about Travis Kelce donating a house to the homeless went viral, a different NFL player did it for real. This was published at goodgoodgood.co on August 27th of 2025 by Megan Cook. AI-generated headlines are increasingly common, but in a sea of misinformation, deepfakes, and entire articles written by ChatGPT, a particular brand of AI content has emerged. Fake feel-good news. Do you know how much I hate that? In June, a rumor about Kendrick Lamar and his partner, Whitney Alford, quietly paying off school lunch debt for 103 public schools went viral across Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, also known as X. Although the Grammy Award-winning musician has a long history of donating to LA communities, the details of this latest story were not corroborated by any professional news sources. Ultimately, it all traced back to a single AI-generated YouTube video, which had spurned a frenzied game of telephone across the internet. As fake stories gain traction and flood the internet, they overshadow the real factual good news that's unfolding every day. Stories like former NFL player Jordan Jenkins donating not one, but 2 houses to support homeless veterans in Columbus, Georgia. Jenkins, a Georgia native, played college football for the Georgia Bulldogs. He went on to play for the New York Jets, the Houston Texans, and Las Vegas Raiders before retiring from the NFL in 2022. On August 22nd, Jensen... Stop it, Becky! Becky said, artificial intelligence. I'm going to lose my mind. On August 22nd, Jenkins sang the praise of the Plumber House, a nonprofit that combats veteran homelessness and offers transitional housing to local vets. Over the last 15 years, they've helped impact the lives of 708 veterans, and the number will continue to rise moving forward, Jenkins said in a video that was shared across Instagram and TikTok. But for that, we need more people to come out and sort of put their money where their mouth is and really get involved and really just help these veterans out. Heeding his own advice, Jenkins looked for ways to help. He soon learned that the house next door to the Plumber House was for sale and bought it. Then he learned that a second house on the same street was up for sale, and he purchased that residence as well. Now in total, we've got 4 units that I'll be dedicating towards the Plumber home, just to help give veterans a sense of self again and really give them a little more privacy, Jenkins said, and help them get the rental history they might need to get the dream home that they really want. Jenkins said the cycle of homelessness continues because people don't have access to the resources they deserve. He wrapped the video by saying, I want to give them a second chance and a helping hand. That is really cool. To To Jordan Jenkins, former NFL player who purchased 2 homes for homeless veterans to help people get back on their feet effectively. In what is a true good news story and not the fake crap that we're starting to see pop up here and there. Cheers. Our last article of the night is a Not All Heroes Wear Capes article. And this is a really good one. A really kind one that you wouldn't think of. I'll copy and paste the link and put it in the chat. It is in the description for you to read at your leisure while I get through the abridged version. Beating cancer required thousands for parking. She now fundraises for other patients' parking. This was published at Good News Network on September 5th of 2025 by Andy Corbley. Given all the expenses and anxiety that come with battling cancer, one might think that parking fees really shouldn't be among them. Yet some hospitals and cancer centers in Canada either charge for parking, as much as $12 a day Canadian, or don't have large enough parking on site, forcing patients to park in private lots or on the street where the costs can be even higher. A 6-month battle against cancer means those parking fees can breach the thousands column. Christina Locke, who battled lymphoma for 20 years, is now giving back to support those walking a similar path. She's raising funds to cover parking costs for patients and families visiting the Verspeten Family Cancer Centre, or the VFCC, at London Health Sciences Centre in Ontario, where she received treatment for so long. The need is there, Christina said in a statement. Some people have to come in every day for treatment, and parking can feel like... there it is. There we go. And parking can feel like one more thing to deal with. I wanted to spark some joy in their day. Diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma in 2004, Locke visited the cancer clinic every 6 months for over 2 decades. In 2023, her illness transformed into a far more aggressive form, but today she is cancer-free and focused on giving back. When I was done with my treatments, I just felt like I needed to do something more, she told CBC News, adding that patients walking in for their first cancer treatments feel like the rug has been pulled out from under them and aren't even sure how long they have to live. Imagine paying, or even remembering to pay, the $20 for parking under those circumstances. Now, during the 2 weeks either side of her Now, during the 2 weeks either side of her 63rd birthday, Locke waits at a booth with parking vouchers and a sign that reads, "Happy birthday to me. Your parking is free." Today I received hugs. I received kisses on the cheek. I shared tears with people. I shared laughter. There was joking. It just completely lightens the mood, Locke said. We are deeply grateful to Christina for her generosity and compassion toward patients at the Verspeten Family Cancer Center, said Carrie Landry, director of the Southwest Regional Cancer Program. Facing a cancer diagnosis is an emotional journey, and helping cover parking costs removes one for patients and their families, or one worry for patients and their families. Christina's kindness is a shining example of the difference one person can make in our community. Christina has a fund set up through the LHSF where she has raised over $5,000 to date. She plans to return each summer in honor of her birthday and to continue giving back. This is also part of my own healing process, she said in a statement. I want to show my children and grandkids how meaningful it can be to give to others. When questioned by CBC reporters, an LHSF spokesperson acknowledged the cost of the parking and the burden it imposes, but said that it goes to pay for hospital operations, per a law passed in 2016 in the province of Ontario that requires them to do so. To Christina Locke, who battled cancer for 20 years, is cancer-free right now, and is giving back by helping to pay for the parking for others who are trying to fight their own fights against cancer. Not all heroes wear capes. Cheers. That was awesome. 12 cool news articles tonight. And we thank you all so much for all the ones that you sent in, seriously. Thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. We're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be back to good news episodes. It'll be a good news episode on September 14th of 2025. We encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, by all means, you can send us suggestions for news brews, shout-outs, news quotes, and of course, good news articles that we can present on future episodes, or cool news articles that we can present on a future cool news episode. If you send a bunch of articles, we appreciate if you spread them out across our 4 major categories, which are normally science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice articles we like to end on, like Christina Locke, a true hero. You can message us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description for all of the ways to get a hold of us. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our Facebook page, our Instagram posts, our TikToks, and of course our YouTube videos, so we can continue to get good news and joy out into the algorithm. This Hope Course stuff is continuing to grow. It's incredible thanks to all of you. We continue to grow. We see steady growth, and I couldn't be happier just to see us getting our product, our good news, further out to battle all the bad news. It really is something else, so thank you all again. I owe all of Nick's News' growth to producer Donna and you all for everything that's going on, so thanks. As always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.